So liberal New York City is looking to ban transgender athletes from women's sports. So when we talk about banning transgender athletes from women's sports, generally we're talking about very conservative states like Florida and North Carolina. Here are a couple of examples.
And I can tell you this, in Florida, girls are going to play girls sports and boys are going to play boys sports. That's what we're doing, and we're going to make sure that that's the reality.
Governor Ron DeSantis on Tuesday added Florida to the growing list of U.S. states to ban transgender girls and women from playing in women's athletics at schools, a move blasted as discriminatory by equal rights activists.
Tonight at 11, the North Carolina House passing the Fairness in Women's Sports Act today.
The bill says transgender females cannot participate in sports that correspond with their gender identity. Today at the Capitol, lawmakers and athletes praise the legislation, but some within the LGBTQ community call this damaging and overall discriminatory.
Greg Abbott is signing a transgender sports bill. This bill will require college athletes to play sports based on their birth-given gender. A similar bill is already in the law in reference to high schools in Texas.
Now, we know that since the beginning of time, men and women have physical differences that just can't be overcome with wishful thinking. And because of these differences, women's sports needed to be protected. So the United States passed Title IX. Now, Title IX was specifically designed to protect women's sports because if you allowed men and women to have to compete for athletic scholarships, men would always come out on top. That's just biology. Now, Serena Williams is one of the greatest female athletes, if not the greatest female athletes of all time. Now, in one place we can easily see this difference is mixed doubles tennis. Now, remember, these are the top women's players on the planet and the top men's players on the planet playing against each other.
Serena Williams is not beating a single man. There's not a guy in the country in the ATP Top 100 that's not beating Serena soundly.
Let's start with the elephant in the room.
That's right.
Why was it necessary?
I think you're referring to the fact that I said she'd be about 700 in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you think, Charlie? You're a tennis guy. You like to play tennis. I see you on the tennis court.
Right.
What do you think that Serena Williams would be ranked if she played in the men's game?
I have no idea.
Well, if you had a guess.
Well, she seemed pretty strong to me. I mean,
very strong. The greatest female player ever.
Okay, nobody can prove this. Here's what.
Would you like to apologize?
No. But the offer is this. Why don't you combine, just solve the problem? I'm sure the men would be all for this. The men and women play together. And then we don't have to guess.
Cool. Could be nearer 20.
40 love.
Si agita per il rumore appena sentito. Ma servirà ancora una volta uscire.
15. 14. That's good, because it's got the tape. It counts.
He has every right to be.
That's the way to finish it off. Yeah, I'll bet.
Well, this we know for sure.
40, 15.
That's the one I'm waiting for. Giving the ball away if you just cross willy-nilly.
13.
You know what, that's just...
Game 10.
You can set it 3-2.
13.
Down at this end is a lob.
There's that one down the middle. Shouldn't be that way. Oh,
Come on, John.
no, I knew that was coming. It's a fault.
Actually, it's funny because Andy Murray, he was been joking about myself and him playing a match. And men's tennis and women's tennis are completely almost two separate sports. I'm like, if I were to play Andy Murray, I would lose 6-0, 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Completely different sport. The men are a lot faster, and they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game, and I love to play women's tennis. And I don't want to be embarrassed. I would not do the tour. I wouldn't do Billie Jean any justice. So Andy, stop it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you kill me.
Now, we've recognized this in law and in practice that the biological differences between men and women are so dramatic that the women's category needs to be protected so they can win stuff. They can win gold medals. They can be productive in athletics, and men can be productive in athletics. And I think it's also important to note that there's no bar to entry to men's sports. So for instance, if there's a woman who can compete with the men, she can go and play against the men. The only restriction is that men cannot compete against women. But the transgender movement wants to change all that. They want people to compete based on their identity. If I feel like a woman today, I should be able to compete against the women. And you can see this with Leah Thomas, who is a transgendered athlete. When she was competing against the men, she was ranked 65th in the 500 freestyle, but when she said, I identify as a woman, and competed against the women, she went from 65th place to first place, breaking the women's record. And now, I've been called transphobic for making this particular point, that I feel for someone who's transitioning genders, but the fact of the matter is we have to protect women's sports. They can still compete. They just got to compete in the open category, which is the men's category. But the women's category is there for a particular reason, to protect biological women from men encroaching in their space. Now things are starting to come full circle. See, the largest school district in New York City has decided that, hey, it doesn't make sense to allow biological men to compete with biological women because we know of the physical differences between the two.
Well, emotions got heated at a meeting of Manhattan's largest school board district. This over transgender athletes and girls' sports.
A lot of people are talking about this, especially parents. Lizette Nunez here with details of this controversial resolution. What's going on?
Good morning, Kurt and Rosanna. The meeting included parents, teachers, and city council members, and they had a lot to say. The resolution that was passed will not change anything immediately, but it does raise questions on who will be allowed to play in sports at New York City public schools.
As a parent, I'm frankly disappointed that adults in positions of power are capitalizing on a lack of understanding to try to push debates and policies rooted in discrimination.
A contentious debate unfolding as the Manhattan School District votes in favor of a measure that could lead to a ban on transgender athletes from participating in girls' sport.
Now, I think you guys got to understand, this is in Texas. This isn't Louisiana. This is New York City, who wants to ban trans athletes from competing with women because the evidence is so overwhelming.
There are considerable physical safety concerns. They should be investigated thoroughly to ensure we are never putting our female athletes at undue risk.
In an 8-3 vote, Community Education Council District 2, which serves most of Lower Manhattan, Midtown, and the Upper East Side, voted to review a policy that allows transgender girls to play in female sports. Since 2019, students have been allowed to play in sports in accordance with the student's gender identity and not their biological sex. The resolution calls for a committee to be created that would review current gender guidelines and make recommendations to New York City's Department of Education.
Obviously, we want to consult female athletes, we want to consult coaches, but we also want to consult doctors. We want to consult evolutionary biology experts. We want to consult with people who understand the physiology behind the issues.
Now, unless you're living under a rock and don't want to see what's in front of you, it's obvious that men and women have physical differences that at the elite level, at the elite sports level, women just can't overcome. That's why we have something like Title IX. So this, we need to research. It's all BS. It's all trying to avoid the obvious. And that is that if you're going to allow biological men to compete with biological women, those biological men are going to have a huge advantage, especially when you're talking about athletes.
New York City Council member Eric Botcher condemned the resolution.
Discrimination has no place in our schools, our city, and our state, and we're proud that New York is a legal safe haven for transgender young people and their families.
So just so you understand what the arguments are here, on one side, they're saying that, hey, there's a safety issue because men are faster, stronger, have more bone density. And if they're competing with women, women can get really hurt in competing in sports against men. And the other side, they just said discrimination. They don't want to look at any data, any facts, any of the reality of the situation. Just by saying discrimination, that's supposed to move everyone to accept this insanity.
This latest resolution is part of a national debate that has ignited over transgender athletes. This week, Olympic gold medalist Caitlyn Jenner showed support after Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman banned female sports teams with transgender athletes from using county facilities. The county is also suing Attorney General James after she threatened legal action over the ban. Meanwhile, the New York Civil Liberties Union is suing the county, saying the policy violates state civil and human rights laws.
But it's also interesting to note that by not banning biological men from competing with biological women, it's a violation of Title IX.
Well, New York City Schools Chancellor David Banks has already strongly opposed bans that would prohibit transgender athletes from playing sports. Last month, he stated that every student can participate in sports and competitive athletics in accordance with their gender identity. Roseanne and Kurt.
Okay, so you understand the arguments now. One side is just, if you wake up one morning and you feel like a woman and you happen to be a biological man, you get to compete with the women. And the other side is saying, let's look at the science. There's a safety issue here. And why the hell do we have Title IX if we're just going to allow men to compete in women's categories? That would destroy the whole structure of Title IX. But the Democrats don't care. As always, tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. Tell me where you disagree. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.